What is up, punters and degenerates? You are listening to the Lads Talking Footy podcast. As always, every week, myself, Sam, joined by Jordan Tana. Mate, how was your weekend?
Good, bro. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Got the first perfect week of the year, almost a perfect week with the props as well. But unfortunately, I went down by, I think, 2.5 points. I think I had the Warriors to cover the plus 17 and a half line, and they lost by 20. But luckily for me, I have the sense that God gave geese, and I actually broke my cardinal rule. I did a cardinal sin, and I actually did a cash out after Dom Young or someone scored the second try. I was like, damn, this looks pretty grim for the Warriors. So I thought, better pull this now. And never have I wanted the Warriors to lose by more than 17 points before. I was kind of thinking I had made a big mistake, but luckily we go up, get about 1.8k, and yeah, man, good week for money.
Yeah, pretty crazy. That back pocket of yours is probably looking a little bit heavy now. And like we say every single week, follow along with us, man, because Jordan had a perfect week in tipping. And in terms of his prop plays, like he said before, he only just missed out on that wires, the plus 17 and a half in that one. That would have been a crazy collect had they all come through. So like we say every week, man, jump in with the lads because one of us is leading you to water to drink, if not both of us, every single week. Do you want to take us through the accountability, mate?
Yeah, so like I said, 8 from 8 in my picks. I do have a little asterisk next to my picks though, because you would have noticed in the tipping comps or whoever plays with me in the tipping comps that I didn't get a perfect week. And that's because I saw the late Nico Hines scratch and flipped the pick in the pick. So, yeah, I actually went with the Storm there. But in terms of the show, we're 8 from 8. The Dolphins started off the week beating the Seagulls in a back and forth try scoring fest. I've gone with the Dolphins 1-12 and the total points over 47.5, which has come through.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just going to sit on this tick button for you this whole show as we're going through the accountability. I had Saab 2 plus, Manly to win, $6.75. We don't go down. It's a classic void from me in the push. Saab, he goes off injured, so we get our $5 back on that one.
Yeah, you got to love 365 for being a little bit generous there and giving you the void for the early injury.
Well, it's actually sports bet over here, so yeah,
Oh,
they're
okay. There you
very,
go.
very generous.
Yeah, yeah, crossing the borders. Panthers beat the Bulldogs in a close affair, 16-10. I've gone with the Bulldogs to get within the 15.5 line because I thought it was pretty disrespectful.
Yeah, and I've ended up taking Josh Adokar, which doesn't go in there, and the Panthers to win at $3.60. So we go down there, we get a tick and a cross.
Yeah, the old trademark ticking across from Sammy. Broncos beat the Eels 30-14. Broncos to cover the -9.5 line. I've come through there, and I see you've had a bit of a blinder in this one.
Yeah, so I've taken Dean Mariner 2 plus tries into the Broncos 13 plus at $7.50. So a big win there, and maybe not the big three. This is just a juiced up double header. So yeah, we end up coming through.
Yeah, and a clean set of wheels from Mariner for one of those tries, man. I was actually impressed with his pace. He might be up there in terms of the fastest guys as well. Bit of a wet one, a slogfest. The Knights beating the Tigers 20-14. I've gone with the Knights to cover the 4.5 line, which they have only just.
Yeah, and I'm here again with the tick and across. Tigers to win, they don't get that one. But Tuala, anytime try scorer, he comes through there. That was $5.25 odds, but we go down.
And then the most sure thing of the week is that the Rabbitohs will lose, and the Dragons have done that again. Dragons beating the Rabbitohs 28-14. So I have just come through once again by the skin of my teeth with the Dragons 13 plus.
Nice, and I've taken the Dragons to win, which has come through for me there. Sloan, he scored a try in every single home game this year, but he doesn't score one in this one. $3 odds, but we go down there.
And then in an absolute cracking game, somewhat of an upset considering Nico Hines' late scratch. Sharks beating the Storm at Amy Park 25-18. Great performance from Atkinson. Sharks head-to-head I've taken just as is because, it was a hard game to pick as it is. And I just thought maybe the upset value could be good for the Sharks. So I've gone with them there.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd think if the Sharks were winning that game, Mulatalo would be scoring, but he didn't in this one. I took Mulatalo anytime try score, Storm plus 12.5. They covered the line. Mulatalo doesn't score. We go down on $2.40 odds there.
Yeah, I think the problem with Mulatalo is that his forwards and his props are a little bit too greedy and scoring all the tries themselves, man. A pretty heartbreaking result. Roosters beating the Warriors 38-18. Warriors actually played all right in the second half and the back end of the first half, but the Roosters are just on a different level right now. And I've actually gone down. The only miss I have had this week, Young anytime try scorer into Warriors plus 17.5, which they've just missed by a couple of points.
Yeah, that was tough when they started climbing it back. I thought, here we go, man. Skeen's got the royal flush in here, but they don't manage to cover the line. I've got a win here. I've taken Dom Young anytime try scorer. He scored within the first 20 seconds, and the Roosters to win, and that looked locked up after the first 20 seconds at $2.05 odds. I'd said beforehand I felt like this was a round where we might see some 2+ try scorers. And I'm gutted that with my 40-20, I didn't lock in Dom Young instead of Saab. I felt like Mariner was the sort of one to go in there, and I wasn't too sure about Saab. But yeah, Dommy Young kind of just, I oversaw on that one.
Yeah, well, once the Warriors got the big numbers over there on that left side for them, two replacement players, you would think Dom Young was in for a bit of a special moment. So yeah, maybe unfortunate that the team was changed last second on you. Titans beat the Cowboys 20 out of 18. I've gone the Titans to cover the plus 2.5 line as underdogs, and they nearly crumbled, man, because they were suffering with a whole bunch of injuries that the Cowboys nearly took advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. I thought the Cowboys were gonna climb back at the right at the end there. I've taken Drinkwater, Kyle Fout, and Cowboys to win at $5.75, which unfortunately we go down there. But moving into the repeat sets in the 40-20s, I took Dean Mariner anytime try scorer Broncos to win at $2.25, which we managed to cash. And like I said earlier, the 40-20 Saab 2+, Mariner 2+, 1760. We don't go down. It's just a push because of Saab.
And for the repeat set bet, Broncos minus 5.5. They've covered that for me, so that comes through. And then we finally get one over the line, a 40-20 bet. Tops off a great week for me. Knights minus 4.5, and then the Sharks winning that thriller in Melbourne to get me my first 40-20 bet of the year. So, hey, I'm not just a grubber kicker. I got a punt on me too.
1 week out from Magic Round and you're heading in there with full pockets. It could be a very dangerous weekend. I ended up having a Yeah, I ended up having a winning week in that one. I'm actually plus 5.8 units on that, obviously from the Mariner and Broncos 13 plus, which takes our current total units to 70.68 for the season, which is fantastic. We're heading into round 11. We've only had one losing round. Like we say every week, follow along, man, because sometimes there might just be $2 odds, but if you're sprinkling along, we're winning. So jump in on there. And if you're jumping in on that, jump in on the free NRL tips because we had a 42 unit stake with a 47.94 unit collect on the weekend. So it is a small win. We were a DWZ short of $30 to $1 odds in a multi, and we were a Sione Katoa short of $46 to 1 odds in another multi. So it could have been absolute chaos in that one. So like we say every week, jump in the Telegram group. It's just in the link tree on our bio. Hit that. It's free. You don't have to charge. We're not charging anything, and you can just sprinkle along with whatever you want because 9 times out of 10 we're winning at the moment. We're up, I think, plus 80 units on the season in that as well. Now we move into the headlines. So obviously David Fafita was the big one last week. And straight away, if you're looking at David Fafita's contract, you're going to look at Tino Fasuamale's contract. So whoever's writing these up for the Titans, you got to go. These clauses are just wild. So obviously Tino signed a 10-year contract. I believe it was last year. But it's revealed that he has a clause in it at the end of 2026. So he can take his clause, I believe it is next year, and he will be a free agent at the end of 2026. I spoke to you about it earlier in the week. The Storm have mentioned making a big push to get that star front rower back onto that squad. What are your thoughts around the Titans? Maybe Tino's sort of swaying now that David Fafita has made his decision. Do you like the fact that he might go? Where do you like to see him end up? Or how do you see this sort of playing out?
Yeah, unfortunately for the Titans, having their two biggest stars and their two key signings that they've tried to invest their future in wanting to leave is actually just an absolute red flag for me. And I think this is a franchise that's going to be on the downturn for the years to come. And I want all their star players to kind of get out of there and for them to just start moving in a different direction and start breeding the young talent. So I want Brimson gone as
Yeah,
well.
I'm glad
I
you
want
said that.
Tino gone. I want Fafita. Fafita's already going to the Roosters. So I want them to get opportunities with teams where they can actually have the best opportunity to succeed and play some good rugby league. So I like that David Fafita is going to a Roosters team that looks so good this year. They may take a dip next year, but with him coming in, it keeps the ball rolling. So you've got a good foundation there with the Roosters. Tino going to the Storm is excellent for him because they know how to maximize talents in the forward. They've got the best out of Katoa, who has come in. They've got the best out of Sean Bloor, who's playing great footy. And I think the Storm is just a great breeding ground for good talent. So I like that as an option for him. And then the last one to fall, just Brimson. I just want him to get an opportunity somewhere, specifically as a fullback. I know they've got Jaden Campbell there. I think that's the direction that the Titans should go and just invest in Jaden Campbell and have a young team to come through to support him. But AJ Brimson needs an opportunity at, say, like a Raiders or somewhere where there is a hole in that fullback position, because he has shown this year that he is an absolute star, and he may not be getting, the origin recognition and other stuff like that because he is stuck at the Titans. So yeah, I think the Titans need to blow this up, and it's just time for them to move forward.
It is in a way, eh? And it's almost like Desi Hasler needs a clean slate for them as well. If Fafita's going, Tino, I mean, yeah, look, he's the face of that franchise, he's the heart and soul of them. But you got a lot of youth coming through, so whether they decide to, yeah, like you said, cut their ties, move forward with their. When I look at the Storm expressing interest in them, one name that just came straight off the top of my head as well, and that's the Bulldogs. I don't know what their cap space is like, but they are in the market for front rowers. And if Tino was to go there to lay that platform in the middle for them, I know they probably want to look at the halves department in terms of Mutters Hutchinson, but yeah, I mean Tino on the Bulldogs could be a very dangerous picture. Um, Now, Tommy Turbo, Nathan Cleary, Nico Hines, all either sitting because of or injuring their hamstrings in this round. What's doing with the back of the leg at the moment, bro? Because it is pretty wild. It wasn't, those are just the three main ones. We've had Alex Johnson, who's returning this week. He was out due to hamstring injury earlier. It seems like every second injury report that comes through is either tightness in the hammy or it's gone. So yeah, Tommy Turbo, Nathan Cleary, Nico Hines all headlined round 10 with injuries.
Yeah, I put it down to this. I've always died on this hill that NRL is the toughest competition in the world, because rugby league is one of the toughest sports, is the toughest sport I've ever played. And it is just a long competition that's about 28 weeks of regular season. And then mixed in there is representative footy as well, with Origin and then country versus city and stuff like that. So it is a tough, long season in the NRL. And every offseason, they add in these new rules to make the game faster and faster. And I think these star players who play heavy minutes and have a lot to do with the success of their teams, I think they're just, maybe the workload is a little bit too much at the moment. And we're starting to see these injuries to legs and stuff because they're just overexerting themselves. So, yeah, maybe it's something that coaches maybe need to realize and actually just give their stars like 4 blocks of games, and then maybe like 1 or 2 weeks off and then 4 blocks, and just maybe break the season up a little bit more for their stars, and maybe have the dreaded words in the NBA. What's it called? When they rest people.
Yeah, it's sitting. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Oh yeah.
It
But
is. I get what you mean though, but I mean Nathan Cleary was rested the week prior to this as well, so Ivan Cleary did have that in the back of his mind, and then he puts him
yeah,
out there, and then it goes again. I mean, I'd listened to another show, and they were talking about the wet conditions at the moment potentially making playing a factor, but I mean the ground surfaces are top nick at the moment. It's wild. All these soft tissue injuries. I know the injury percentage at the moment is tracking along. I think it's 15.3% at the moment. I believe last year in the same round was 13.7. So we are slightly higher. It's just bigger names and stuff. But yeah, it just seems to be hamstring every single time at the moment. So it is a little bit weird. And I guess leading in on from that as well, for Manly and the Turbo situation, is it time, do you think, to potentially not move on, but revisit how this is going? He's expected to miss 7 weeks. This is going to be a perfect time now for Tolu Kola to sort of cement himself into that fullback position. They start to re-identify the game plan around them and how they're going to suit. But this is a 6 hamstring injury. First 3 were on the left side, and then the last 3 have been on the right. I mean, he was looking really, really good leading into this, but do they maybe need to look at when he does return, putting him into that centre role and taking him out of maybe just being on the ball so much and he can play his side and then look to revisit him at fullback? I mean, he's on a big wicket at the back there with his contract. It's just very messy for Manly. I feel like the last 2 to 3 seasons we've just been sitting on and waiting for Turbo in terms of making a push for the eight. So I don't know where they go.
Yeah. And you have to play Turbo at fullback, I think, just based on the fact that we're only 3 years removed from one of the best fullback seasons of the modern era in his Dally M season in 2021. So that is definitely the position where he can impact the game the most. But it does seem like the toll that that position is the physical toll that that position takes on your body has is he's not reacting very well to it. So yeah, maybe they could do that. I think load management, that's the word I was looking for
Mm.
before from the NBA. Load management maybe just needs to come into play with these coaches, and Turbo just might need to sit, 1 or 2 weeks. I don't wouldn't even be opposed to them sitting 2 weeks if they've got like a weaker schedule coming up. Like say they've got, you know, the Tigers and then the Titans back to back. You could sit Turbo for those and then maybe have him come back and play 4 solid weeks for you. So yeah, a lot of questions to go around addressing these injuries, man.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with him when he returns in terms of, like you said, his load management when he does return. It's only 7 weeks he's missing. I say that like it's only 7 weeks. It's a long time, but he will return before season's end. And you want Turbo in your side as we lead into finals. So maybe they do when he does return, maybe he does shift to that left centre position and they leave Tolu Kolo at fullback and just let him sort of get a few more minutes under his belt before maybe pushing him to the back. But it's just tough, man. I mean, like we were 10 rounds in and I sort of thought we had the monkey off our back with him, but lo and behold, the hamstring goes again. And you just got to feel for him because you could see like the genuine disappointment. He's obviously going to miss Origin as well, which is a massive blow, but it's just constant injuries, which are soft tissue injuries, which is just they're kind of it's sort of like a freak injury in a way, but it's not like he's out there and he's broken his arm or something like that in contact. It's just tough. It's tough for him. He's done the states, obviously to rehab it all, and it just sucks, man. Like you said, a couple of years ago, we had one of the greatest ever seasons from the fullback position from him. So you just want him to see him out there fit and healthy, which is a shame. Um, Now we're going to move into the state of origin corner like we're doing every single week. So we've got 2 weeks left. We're going to break this one into our middle forwards, so our props, locks, and edges. And then next week we're going to do our bench. We'll release our squads and see how far off we were as we approach origin. So before we get into talking about the forwards, obviously we've had a lot of injuries, so we want to talk about potentially reshuffling our sides because we don't want to both throw out our post and have Nathan Cleary in at halfback and everyone goes, he's injured, because we know he's injured, but we'll adjust it a little bit. So I'll go first here. For New South Wales, I think my halves pairing, I know it was kind of dependent on the team naming here, on whether we were going to see Mitch Moses named for the Eels. But for game one, I'm going to go Nico Hines and Mitch Moses in the halves. I want to see Nico Hines at 5'8" because that's probably where he's going to be playing when Nathan Cleary returns. And I think the kicking game from Mitch Moses is something that's going to be very needed. Now, into the left centre position, obviously I had Turbo in my right centre. So I'm going to shift Critter to the right and I'm going to bring Matt Burden into the left centre. And it might not be a bolstering strength in terms of the centre position. You've obviously had Katoni Staggs, which came to mind. Bradman Best is in fantastic form. But Mitch Moses is coming back from an injury. Nico Hines has been sitting out with hamstring injuries. Matt Burden is Dally M centre, and you put him out on that left side. He can pop up as Birdo Bombs, which is a strength. But if one of our halves is to go down injured, I want to have the luxury of putting Matt Burden into one of those spots and then shift someone to centre just as that cover. And at the fullback spot, we've got a lot of guys coming in and out. I want to put Tedesco in at fullback over Dylan Edwards. I think if Nathan Cleary was still there, Dylan Edwards would have fit perfectly. But I just think Tedesco needs to be maybe that rock just in game one, in and around Moses and Hines, someone that's used to that origin or has origin experience. He's obviously the skipper for them, so I'd be putting Teddy back in there. So that's my rotation.
Yeah, a lot of injuries.
Mm.
It's getting me worried as a New South Wales fan. I agree with you on your halves. I was actually going to go with Nico Hines, and if Mitchell Moses is fresh and he comes back healthy and he's looking as good as he was when he went down, I'll have him in there. I didn't consider changing them around like you have. I thought Mitchell Moses could do just as good a job as a six, but I like what you've done there. So I might take a leaf out of your book and put Hines at six and Moses at seven because I mean, you can pick and choose with those guys.
Mm.
They're so talented that I don't think it's going to matter too much either way. But I would like Moses to be that 5'8" role and get the majority of the kicking because we know he's got one of the best boots in the NRL. In terms of Tom Trebojevic, I had him on my right wing, so I'm going to now remove him out of the equation. And instead, I'm going to take a leaf out of your book as well. I'm going to go with Zach Lomax. I'm going to bring him into the squad. I think he's been doing well as a winger. He has been the X factor for the Dragons, and I think he adds a little bit of value with his X factor ability here for the New South Wales Blues. I will just say, if Mitchell Moses isn't going to be available, I would like to have Burton in at number 6,
Yep.
and then instead of Zach Lomax, I would put Brian To'o on that right side, and then I'd have Josh Adokar come in on that left side and have him as your starting winger. So it all depends on the Mitchell Moses health situation, but that first option is what I would go with. And then in the centres, I will be making a change as well, but I've got that coming up a little later. I don't want to spoil my performance of the week. And fullback, I'm going to stick with Dylan Edwards because I have been so impressed with how he's playing, man. I think he needs to be rewarded for his form, and I think he is just kind of like Tedesco's been playing so good as well.
Yeah.
But to me, Dylan Edwards is like Tedesco 2.0 almost. I wouldn't go as far to say he's twice the player of Tedesco, but he's just been in such good form, young, hungry, and I think he deserves to have a crack. So if he fails, we can swap Tedesco in, get the rock back in there. But I'm going to keep Edwards at fullback.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Dylan Edwards. It's such a tough decision to make. The only reason why I wouldn't be putting him in there and keeping Teddy there is just with all the changes that we're going to see and just the experience. And I don't want to potentially throw Dylan Edwards in game one. Like we sort of saw with Nico Hines as well. He has a bad performance, he gets dropped, and everyone's like, that's him for Origin. So if Teddy is going to fall off, I'd rather him do it on his own, and then we make the change from there. Now moving into the props, locks, and edges. We'll start off with New South Wales. So look, on the left side, Angus Crichton. He has been in fantastic form. We're waiting for that breakout player to come in. So that's where I'm going to be putting him. On the right side, I'm going to go Liam Martin here. I was very tempted to put in Hamoli. I just think the last couple of weeks with him not playing, and just the aggression, the experience, and everything that Liam Martin brings, I'd like to see him starting in that right side. It's not to say that Hamoli might not come off the bench for me. And then in the middle, look, Payne Haas, big pain in the ass, and Gerbo, Jake Trebojevic from the Manly Sea Eagles. That's where I'll be going for New South Wales. Just the experience that we have in the pack there. And then, yeah, I've got a few lollies that would come off the bench next week.
Yeah, I thought I'd mention some honourables that you might see on the bench for me as well next week. These are the guys that aren't quite going to make my starting lineup. You got Hodson Young, Tom Hazelton, I reckon deserves mention. He's been outstanding. Cam McInnes, Ewan Aiken, Ola Kawatu as well, Jake Trebojevic. You could see some of these guys on the bench, bearing in mind. Mitch Barnett, Tyson Frizzell, Daniel Saifiti, Jacob Saifiti, Regan Campbell-Gillard, Bryce Cartwright. He's coming back into the fold. I think he may maybe fringe once he plays a bit more games. Junior Paulo, Keon Kolomaitangi, Cam Murray, Jack DeBellin, Nat Butcher, and Terrell May. So those guys aren't making the squad, but I think they're deserving of a mention here. It's a lot of players. Shows you the depth that New South Wales has in those positions. But in terms of my starting lineup, I will be in the middle going with Payne Haas and Stefano Olakau'atu. I think he... Is that how you spell it?
Utuakamanu.
Okumanu. Yeah, sorry, Utuakamanu. I'm going for big front rowers, good go forward, good post contact meters. They're going to be very intimidating in size. So I like it how they match up against Queensland because Queensland traditionally, recently with Cotter and Flegler and whatnot, they have a smaller sort of front row. So I don't mind having the big boys in there. On the edges, I want on that left side, just like you, Angus Crichton, and on that right side, just like you, Liam Martin. I think they've been outstanding and deserve to get into the New South Wales Blues jumper. And then at 13, Isaiah Yeo. So very, very similar to your starting props, locks, and forward props, locks, and second rowers.
Yeah.
And Angus Crichton definitely deserves, a shot at that because he has been the form second rower in the competition.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, look, at lock, I had Isaiah Yao as well. Moving into Queensland on the right side, I'll be going Jeremiah Nanai. He's had an up and down sort of season for the Cowboys this year, but he has a little bit of experience in Origin. He's an aerial threat, and I think that's where they'll go with him. On the left side, David Fifita, he's been in an outstanding form for them. He'll be a wrecking ball out on that left edge. It gives you nightmares if they're going to have Fifita, Hammer, Munster, and then whatever else they want to throw on the wing. In the middle, though, I'll be looking at Paddy Carrigan, Lindsay Collins, and at lock, Ruben Cotter. In terms of Ruben Cotter to Carrigan, I'm not sure how they'll sort of rotate it, but I just like Carrigan in that prop role and Cotter being a little bit more in the middle, having that ball dominance. Paddy Carrigan's been fantastic. And look, Lindsay Collins might not be that big name sort of star, but in terms of Origin, we saw the effort plays that he had last year, and that's the type of plays that Queensland will be looking to go for. So pretty stock standard. I feel like Queensland sort of won't change away from it, but that's what I think will be running out.
Yeah, I've got pretty much the exact same as you. I'll just mention some of the honourables. Firstly, Tom Gilbert and Tino Fa'asuamaleaui are injured, so those are going to be some guys they need to replace. Corey Horsburgh, Felice Kafusi, Tom Flegler, Mo Fotuaika, Jermaine Hopgood, Jai Era, and Jaden Sewer. You will definitely be seeing some of those names on my bench. But for the starters, I've gone the exact same as you. I've got on the edges, David Fifita on that left side, Jeremiah Nana on that right side. Been sensational in those positions, pretty much writes itself. And then in the front row, I actually had Lindsay Collins as well, but then I had Cotter as the other prop and Carrigan at 13. But I like what you've done there because Carrigan has been kind of he has been less ball dominant this year and just putting his hand up for like hard yards, and his carries are always over like 150, 170 meters. So
Yeah.
he looks real strong in contact this year as well. He's always getting post contact meters. So I don't mind having him as the prop and at 13 having Cotter. They're interchangeable. They can both play different positions at different parts of the game. But yeah, basically the exact same lineup as you.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they end up going forward with. Like we said, Paddy Carrigan, obviously with Payne Haas out, sort of took that front foot for the Brisbane Broncos in terms of the yardage carries and that. I feel like he could do a jobby for Queensland. And then Ruben Cotter, just put your head down and tackle, mate, and that's what he'll do, I'd say, throughout the whole series. And like we said, next week we'll be naming our bench, which is, I'm quite interested to see what you're going to put forward here in terms of the rotations and things like that as we go forward. Now, TBC live power play of the round. For me, Sammy Walker's play in the build-up to Tupou's try. He picks up the loose ball, feeds it to the beast. It's Dom Young, who respectfully, shout out to DWZ, tracks him down with just 5 meters away from the line. Now, most of the time you would see that sort of two pass or one pass from the ruck with the go forward that they had. Walker had Manu pushing up on him. We all know how much of a Hogwarts Manu is, so if that ball had gone to him, he would have been going straight for the line. But instead, he has the creativity to put the Steeden onto his right foot, puts a perfect crossfield kick all the way over to Junior Tupou. Just the brilliance from a young half that has been absolutely killing it at the moment. And we keep talking about all this Origin chat, and if he can keep putting runs like these on the board, it's only a matter of time before the passing the guard goes from DCE to the young Sammy Walker. And man, if he can step up on the big stage and do stuff like that, the future is very, very bright for him. He's been playing absolutely outstanding at the moment, and like we said, 3-0, bearded Walker.
Yeah, bearded Walker, man, the test is surging through his veins. Yeah, he is an extremely creative player, man. I said it a couple of weeks ago. It's only him and Munster in terms of guys that would probably even try that in terms of just the free ability to chance their arm and create opportunities. And that was a picture perfect kick as well after running all the way downfield. So he must have been a little bit gassed trying to keep up with Dom Young, who also played great himself. And Dex kind of woke Dom Young up because after Dom Young's first run, Dex was like, "Oh, Dom Young, he's that guy who cut us up for the Knights last year." And then as soon as he said that, Dom Young just scored a couple of tries, broke the line every time. I was like, wow, he's been woken up. He remembers. So great performance from Dom Young. Another guy who has been playing really good, and we might see the last of him for a bit actually, is Trey Fuller. And I'm going with his solo try against the Sea Eagles on Thursday. Fantastic individual effort, kind of Billy Slater-esque in the way he done it. Gets the ball on the fourth, 50 meters out, breaks straight through the line, and then just has the fullback to beat. Instead of trying to put on some jinky footwork, does the little chip over the top, regathers it beautifully, and scores an absolutely great try for the Dolphins. So Trey Fuller has been in sensational form, man, and it's a little bit unfortunate that he's, dropped completely out of the team now. I believe he was 18th man, with Hammer coming back into the Dolphins lineup. But he has been sensational, and he deserves an opportunity maybe at a different club, from a GM who's willing to pay him the money. So Trey Fuller, shout out, great try.
I'm glad you brought it up. We are so blessed with fullback stocks in the NRL. You've got Trey Fuller, Suafa Longu, and David Armstrong, who's doing a fantastic job out there for the Newcastle Knights, replacing Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, Ryan Pappenhausen, and the reigning MVP in Kalen Ponga. And they're all contributing to their team week in and week out and coming up with these fantastic plays. Those are huge names that they're filling the boots of, and they're performing right up to that level, if not more better in some phases. So yeah, like you said, Trey Fuller, fantastic. I'm sure there is a job out there for him somewhere.
Yeah.
Performances of the round though, I'm going Daniel Atkinson against the Melbourne Storm. Now he only finished with one offload, 2 tackle breaks, and 538 kick meters. But in a game where Nico Hines was ruled out very late, in Melbourne, he was calm, composed throughout, 100% off the tee, and then hit a nice little drop goal to push the Sharkies out by one, before obviously the late try from Talakai. I thought it was a fantastic play for him. I believe there was like 8 minutes left on the clock. They're down there with an attacking set. Instead of putting in the crossfield kick and sort of rolling the dice, he just goes, nah, I'm just going to go ahead on the scoreboard, knock over one, we'll go back and reset. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And it's just great to see the management from a young 23-year-old, and it's just bolstering that halves depth out there for the Sharkies, because you got Trindle going through his demons at the moment, and then you got Atkinson knocking on the door there. So, I don't know, iron sharpens iron out there, and it's good to see what the Sharkies are doing at the moment. But yeah, young Atkinson, Melbourne, to go in there and take that scalp off there, fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely outstanding performance considering the circumstances. And for such a young guy to be given such pressure in such a high level game and to perform like that, he had outstanding kicking meters. He pretty much took the game over. He did a Nico Hines without Nico Hines there, and he did an absolutely fantastic job with it. So Daniel Atkinson, fantastic, deserves a sixth spot. I see that Trindle's been named in the wider squad, but Daniel Atkinson deserves another go at it, and I think he'll show that he is a true talent. Speaking of true talents, man, I've gone with Bradman Best of the Newcastle Knights, and this stat line is crazy, bro, because 99 fantasy points, 1 try, 235 run meters, 3 line breaks, 1 line break assist, 1 try assist, 11 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, and 19 tackles. And I said I'd do something with my New South Wales centre position in my performance of the round, and I'm doing it now. I'm redacting Katoni Staggs. I do like Katoni, but this guy just showed me that there is a little bit more of game-breaking ability that Bradman Best has, and he showed it in this game here. So I am going to go Stephen Crichton over to my left side, and then Stephen Crichton over to the right side, Bradman Best on the left side, coming into that centre role for New South Wales. I think he's going to get it after a performance like that. And the Knights, they found themselves in a bit of a dogfight, but this guy really just put the team on his back to get them key moments that turn the result in their favor. And he is such an explosive athlete, so fast, so strong. And like I said, game-breaking ability, because you look, 26th minute, breaks the line and runs nearly full field and earns his team a penalty. 44th minute, gets released by Marzu and gets another full field runaway and sets up Armstrong for a beautiful try. Armstrong been playing great, like you said before. 64th minute, breaks 2 tackles and scores the try that seals the game. 3 key moments that just switched the momentum in the Knights' favor and got them that result. And his defense has been amazing as well, especially the last couple of weeks against the Warriors. And then in this game as well, he did a great job on Naden. So Bradman Best just showing all the qualities that an Origin centre would show. So I have to redact it, man. He's going in at that left centre.
I love it. It's pretty crazy how He's the player that stepped up in the absence of Ponga. Obviously, no threat out the back, and he's kind of put it on him to be that game breaker and that X factor for the Knights. And it's fantastic to see him growing with confidence and just really being that dominant force out there that we've been known to see Gagai out on that right side. But right now, it's Bradman Best, and he's absolutely killing it. And we move into the Dally M. Lads of the round, and look, collecting 3 points was Bradman Best. He rattled off all of the stats. He's been absolutely killing it at the moment. Collecting 2 points, Trey Fuller, we highlighted him earlier. The brilliant try, the 4 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, 1 line break, 155 run meters off 18 runs. And collecting 1 point was Daniel Atkinson, just for his game management, what he did on the weekend as a young half, going into Melbourne, doing that, absolutely fantastic. So those guys take home the Dally M Lad points from the round. Grub of the week, mate. What have we got?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a slow week for the grub of the week this week. So everyone was on their best behaviour. So we've gone with a little bit of a cop out one because it's really grub of these guys, and that's the injury gods. The injury gods have been absolute grubs to us as fans because a star from nearly every team has gone out during the game last week or is already out. It was an absolutely atrocious week for stars. So for the Warriors, Sean Johnson had his Achilles problems and now his ribs, so he came off and he's out for this next game. RTS didn't even suit up with a hamstring. For the Cowboys, Tulangi's been dealing with a hamstring. He's now back. Broncos, Reynolds has got a bicep issue. Dolphins, Hammer with the hamstring. You're going to see a lot of hamstrings. Titans, Tino with the ACL. Brimson with a groin. Foreign with a hamstring. Knights have got Ponga with his foot. He's going to be out for a while. Panthers, Cleary with a, you guessed it, hamstring. Moses with a foot for the Eels. Bulldogs are actually all good. That was one team I was surprised haven't got any injuries considering their history over the last couple of years. Tigers have Bateman out now with a pec. Nico Hines had his calf issue, which kept him out for the Sharks. Turbo's, I'll let you decide what Turbo's out with. He's gone for the Seagulls. Roosters had Brandon Smith with a calf. He's back now though. Rabbitohs, Cam Murray had his hip. Dragons are pretty good as well, but they're still missing Leilua. Raiders have Fogarty with the bicep. They're also missing Horsburgh, and Rapana's only just come back this week. And then finally, the Storm have Hughes with their calf and Pappenhausen with an ankle. So, like you said before, a lot of lower leg injuries. And it is definitely concerning because there's injuries every year, but it's never like star players like this. It's all top 5 most important players in their teams are down with injuries. And yeah, it's really strange. It's absolute nightmare for NFL fantasy owners.
Yeah, and it seems to be a roll-on effect of halfbacks as well. It's almost like every second team for you, then the star halfback was out. So it is a massive concern, especially as we approach Origin as well. We want to see the top guys out there battling at it and obviously staying healthy because we're going to have a lot of guys doing the back-to-back off the Origin into that next round of footy as well. So it is concerning. So footy gods, you've had your round. Put that to the side and we'll move on to some actual grubs as we move forward. But we're going to move into the preview. Round 11, Jordan. It is magic round. All of these odds are accurate as of Tuesday at 6 p.m. And the very first one kicking us off, the Canberra Raiders taking on the Bulldogs on Friday night. The Bulldogs are $1.66 favourites in this one. The Raiders are $2.33 underdogs with the line sitting at 2.5. Unchanged 17 for the Dogs. That gave Penrith a good push last week. And for the Raiders, Rapana is back to fullback after missing 4 games, while Horsburgh is still out on the sideline as he battles with his groin injury. So I won't be doing wins at the venue this week for obvious reasons. This is a 42nd meeting between these two teams. They're split pretty evenly. The Raiders have won their last 10 of their last 11 games against the Bulldogs and won their last 8 games straight against them. Last year, the Raiders beat them 34-30 in the exact same time slot at Magic Round. This year, though, I'm going Bulldogs. I really like what I'm seeing from them.
Yeah. They've put me in a tricky spot here to start the week. The Raiders are coming off a bye and are bolstered by Rapana returning. But the Bulldogs have been looking really good, and they actually matched up pretty well against the Panthers in their last game. And they've just been they've been beating the teams they should, and then they've also been really competitive with the stronger teams in the competition. So I really like the Bulldogs this year, whereas the Raiders have had a few suspicious games since losing Fogarty, but seem to be growing in confidence with weak at the helm, especially in their comeback win over Manly. And they're always going to be competitive through the middle with their strong forwards. And I said I lost my mind a little bit last week by taking so many underdogs, but I think the Raiders represent good value here as the underdog in this one. So
You
I'm
didn't
actually
lose your
going
mind, mate. You picked it perfectly.
I know. So maybe I'm just going to be a little bit more willing to take underdogs, and I'm going to take one here to start. Raiders 1 to 12 at $3.40. I just think, yeah, good underdogs.
Raiders 1 to 12 is something that hits as well. We
Yeah,
know that one too well from last year. For me, Matty Tomoko, he's scored 3 tries in his last 2 games against the Dogs. He also scored against them in Magic Round last year. I'm going to partner him up with Josh Adokar. I'm staying away from any results in this one because I got some bad feeling about that one. So Tomoko, Adokar, both anytime try scorers at $6. Manly take on the Broncos also on Friday night. The Broncos are $1.29 favourites here. The Manly are heavy underdogs at $3.62 with a juicy line of 12.5. For Manly, like we said earlier, Colo has been named as a replacement for Tommy Turbo. Now we got, Tommy Talau moves into the centre spot, which sees Viega come in on the wing for them. For the Broncos, Madden takes over at halfback, while Smoothie, he moves in to replace the injured Billy Walters. 33 games played between these two, 17 wins to Manly and 15 to the Broncos, 1 draw between them. The last 4 meetings between these two teams have been split with 2 wins each. Last year, the Broncos, they beat Manly 32-6 in the exact same time slot, and I think they'll be getting the victory here in front of a packed out home crowd in Suncorp, and obviously with the injuries for Manly. I do think that this one might be a little bit closer than a lot of people think. I think Collar moving into the fullback spot for Tommy Turbo, it's not a like for like in terms of how Manly play, but he's so explosive and he's so dangerous, and you're putting someone like that at the back there. I guess the only weakness that I see is in the centre spot with Tommy Talau, and you've got Ray Viega. Both out on that wing and edge spot for them. So that is a little bit of a concern, but Hamoli back for them as well is going to be a big boost. So I'm going Broncos, but in a close one.
yeah. I do like the last 2 results, like you said, that 32-6 result, and then they also won 38-0. So they've had the stick over the Seagulls, and like you also mentioned, the Seagulls are missing Trebojevic and Croker, and I agree, the backline is looking a little makeshift, whereas the Broncos still miss Reynolds and they lose Walters, but Smoothie has been there all year, so he can just plug in the gap. And they are bolstered by Madden returning as well because he hasn't been available for selection. So I do still like the Broncos here. The Seagulls are still dangerous on attack, but they have no defense, and they often find themselves giving up leads and try-scoring shootouts. And 2 of those were in recent losses to the Dolphins and the Raiders, whereas the Broncos have lost to only the creme de la creme of the competition if you look at their results. Panthers, Storm, and Roosters twice, but the Roosters have been rolling, and they're still an explosive team that can score from anywhere and a little bit more reliable defensively than the Seagulls. So, other than that Roosters game recently, they've held their opponents to 14 or less in their last 5 games, other than that Roosters game. So, Broncos head to head, I'm going to take, and then I'm also going to pair that with total points over 46.5 because both teams have got electric attack. It is Magic Round, so I'm expecting a little bit of fireworks in front of Suncorp. I'm going to go Broncos head to head into total points over 46.5 at $2.15.
Nice. That little double works well for you there. I like you juicing it
Yeah,
up. Now it's Magic Round. We all know what happens with Magic Round and Selwyn Cobbo. He scored a hat trick in back-to-back years. Both of them are against Manly. No longer on that right wing slot though. I still think that there's some sort of magic that happens here with Cobbo. I'm going to back him in for one. Dean Mariner because he's on that right wing. So I'm going to juice that one in there. And I'm going to put Big Mole in there as well. He's going to be coming up against Ezra Mam, who just sucks at tackling big boys at the moment. And Hamole Olakawadu is one of the biggest. So Cobbo, Mariner, Hamole, $13.75 there. Now the Titans kick us off on the Saturday action up against the Knights. The Knights are $1.47 favourites in this one. The Titans are $2.75 underdogs with the line sitting at 6.5. Randall and Verrills, they are the new halves pairing for the Knights with Foz and Brimo out on the sideline. AKP and Shop come in for Sami and Smith Shields. Cogger comes in for Gamble. Best and Armstrong have been named despite concussion and injury concerns. The Knights have won 3 of their last 4 games against the Titans. Last year, the Knights had a bye, and the Titans defeated the Eels in the final game of round 26 to 24. The Knights keep surprising me. No Ponga, but they're still getting the job done. I really wanted to go Titans in this one, but when you got two hookers in the halves, I'm staying away from that. Knights get the win here.
Yeah, so the Knights did beat them last time, 46 to 26, and the Titans are destroyed by injuries, like you said, with two hookers playing in their halves positions. So that's never really a good sign. And they're losing key players in Brimson, Foreign, and Sami as well. And it's a shame because the Titans have been building real nicely. They've got
Mm.
hot attack. Fafita and Brimson have been playing like game breakers, and they even showed a lot of pride defensively in the last few weeks. Like they're still giving up a fair amount of points, but when it comes to like clutch time, they're actually putting in a lot of effort on defense, and they got games against the Warriors and the Cowboys where they held them out. And last week, you look at the stats; they only missed 22 tackles to the Cowboys 47 last week. But no team can, get past that many injuries and two hookers at your halves. It's just the ickiest feeling. And the Knights have also been real good since losing Ponga with a simple approach with high completion and great defense, only conceding 12 points per game in their last three wins. So, I like the fight I'm seeing with the Titans, and the point scoring potential of the Knights hasn't been high. So I am just going to take the line. I think it's changed since then because I've got these odds from before the team list. But I have the Knights minus 3.5 at $2.10. I think that's increased now with the team lists. So whatever the line is, just take it for the Knights.
Yeah, I like it. Now you're all over Bradman Best Dick earlier. Now it's my turn. He scored a double the last time that they played the Titans, and that's exactly where I'm going here. Bradman Best to score, Knights to win, $2.87. Keep it simple. If it's hitting most weeks, it's hopefully going to hit here. The Sharkies, they take on the Roosters in the middle slot here. The Roosters are $1.61 favourites. The Sharks, top of the table Sharkies, are $2.32 underdogs with the line sitting at 3.5. Huge boost for them. Nico Hines has been named. Brayley back to hooker. Trindle, like you said earlier, has been included in the extended bench. He's going to provide cover in case Nico Hines drops out. For the Roosters, Manu is out with concussion protocol, which sees Polga come into the centres for him. Cheese returns, which pushes the informed Cotter Watson to the bench. Top of the table Sharks, they just keep getting it done. They couldn't beat a top 18 last year, but they come into this after going into Melbourne and preventing them from making it 15 straight wins at home. Just quickly before I move on to a few more stats, I was at the game, obviously. I
Uh,
was super impressed. I got there real early, just to experience the sort of atmosphere of Amy Park, have a bit of a wander around, watch some of the Bees playing their footy beforehand. Now, when they bought all of or when they came out for their warm ups, Xavier coach Jerome Hughes came out onto the sidelines and were wandering the lap of the field, taking autographs with all of the fans. Xavier Coates actually hopped into the stadium, was taking photos with all the kids. It wasn't like a quick 5 minute sort of affair. I think Coates was out there for a good 15 minutes, just chatting to fans, signing things for kids, taking heaps of photos with them, talking about them. He was playing footy with a little kid as well, passing the ball with him. I was just super impressed with these kind of like mega stars that have just come out and made the time for their fan base. And then obviously when kickoff came, you sort of realized how passionate they were about it. But shout out to both of them because they made a real big interaction with them. And it was real cool to just be sitting there and seeing these guys just be right amongst all of the locals getting after it. Now, the Roosters, they have won 8 of their last 9 games against the Sharks. Last year, both teams lost in Magic Round. The Sharks lost to the Finns, and the Storm lost to the Cowboys. I'm going Roosters here. They let their foot off the gas a little bit against the Wars, but I think they just have that little bit more in the pack in terms of experience to get them over the line, and I'm just a little bit worried about what might happen with Nico Hines if he plays or if he doesn't, just how they sort of go from there. So I'm going to be backing the Roosters in this one.
yeah, once again, another Sharks game of the round because I'm putting the label on this one too. The Roosters did win that epic game last year in the first round of the finals, 13-12, and this is such a good game because both teams are pretty much at full strength with a star missing here or there. Like Manu's out, and then obviously Trindle and Hamlin they go down. But it's going to be full strength if Nico Hines does suit up. And man, the Sharks, like you said, man, have been sensational to start this year. massive forwards, allowing Hines to play fast, are deadly in the strike zone with both their lead running forwards and props, and then shape out the back, and are much better defensively this year. But on the other side of the coin, the Roosters have been outstanding as well with fast play on their own right, but with more like a mobile and athletic ball carrying forward pack that can offload, and then they play really well off second phase, and they always threaten up the middle and are dangerous at threatening the edges off that second phase as well. And they're on an absolute roll, winning the last 3 games by an average margin of 28 points. And although I don't love picking against the Sharks when they're playing like this, and they are underdogs, which I think they represent great value as underdogs, but I just can't get in front of this Chooks train at the moment, not just yet when they're rolling the way they're rolling. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going with the Roosters. I'm picking a close game because the Sharks have shown they can be competitive with anyone, except for the Tigers, of course. So I'm going to go Roosters 1 to 12 at $3.10.
Nice, simple betting here for me in this one. Ronaldo Mulatalo scored a try in his last 3 games against the Roosters. I've said it the last couple of weeks in a row. He's due. I'm sure it comes off in Magic Round. He scored against them. He scored in Magic Round last year as well. Now partner that up with Dom Young just because he's a fucking beast at the moment. And I'm going to take the Roosters to win. So that is 2 dominant winger scorers for their teams, and the favourite to win will give you $6.25 odds. Rabbitohs, they take on the Cowboys to end the Saturday action. Blockbuster game in this one. Cowboys $1.35 favourites. The Bunnies are $3.21 underdogs with the line sitting at 8.5. Taulagi comes back in for the injured Valame, and McKaylee moves to the bench for Harrison Edwards. For the Rabbitohs, AJ returns from his hamstring injury. Thompson now shifts to the centre spot, and Tane Mill has been added to the bench now that he's finished his suspension. Yeah, big boo. The Bunnies have won 3 of their last 4 games against the Cowboys, but the Cowboys did win their most recent match. Souths beat the Storm in Magic Round last year. The Cowboys beat the Roosters, like I said earlier. The Cowboys win this one. I have a feeling it might just be one of those games where it comes together for them. I've been really, really disappointed with them over the last couple of weeks, but it's against the Bunnies, and we all know Bunnies are 13 plus jobbies at the moment, so hopefully they can string it together against them. But this game has a little bit of an icky feeling to it.
Yeah, it does. I will give you that. It actually does. The Cowboys did win the last meeting 31-6, so they know how to put the Rabbitohs away like everyone else has been doing at the moment. But there are a few troops returning for both teams. I like Johnson coming back for the Rabbitohs, and Taulagi coming back for the Cowboys is good as well. But if you look at the recent form of these guys, both in horrific form, man. Losses as far as the eyes can see, at least the last 5 for both teams. So these guys are in shocking form. The Rabbitohs have lost their last 5 by an average of 24 points. And there's just a lack of effort and buy-in, like we say every week from them. And it doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon. But in saying that, I think the attack might look better in this game with Latrell getting more comfortable 1 week back, and then Johnson in the lineup as well. And then the Cowboys have a poor defense that missed 47 last week, like I said earlier. But yeah, I look at the results. I'm sticking with the Cowboys. I think because the Cowboys at least look dangerous and competitive in games. But I might have a feeling that these bottom feeders might put on a show in Magic Round. I think it's going to be a decent game on attack-wise because of how poor the defenses are. So I'm going to go Cowboys head-to-head into total points over 48.5 at $2.20.
Nice. I really wanted to sprinkle AJ into a little bit of damage here, but I'm just a little bit worried that maybe the Bunnies don't even score much in this one. But my best bet for this one is Val Holmes. He scored a double the last time that they played. I'm praying that there's no fullback that can knock it out of his hands as we go over, or as he goes over the line this week. Now, along with the right winger, because the right winger has scored in every single game against the Rabbitohs this season. Holmes felt anytime try score of $4 odds in that one. Now the Warriors, they take on the Panthers to kick off the Sunday footy. The Panthers are $1.21 favourites, and thus the Wires are $4.45 underdogs with the line sitting at 13.5. Warriors, SJ out to a picky to fullback. CNK moves to 5'8". TWM to halfback, and Leitao is in to replace Roccoberry, who has a fractured hand. For the Panthers, we get to see Jerome Luai shifted into the halfback role, which is going to be interesting to see how he controls this one. Looking forward into his Tigers career next year. Jack Cole, he moves into the 5'8". Would have loved to have seen them bring in the baby Chin, the young 16-year-old. This fresh Prince Cleary, put him out there. But yeah, Jack Cole, he comes in, and Tunga returns for them as well, which pushes Alan Motti into the 18th man spot. Now the Panthers come into this having won their last 8 games in a row against the Wars. 5 of those have been by 13 plus margins. And at Magic Round last year, they played in the exact same time slot, and the result was the Panthers winning 18-6. Now, I'm going Wars here. Shenanigans, I reckon. Magic Round shenanigans. It's just one of those games. I know it's a bit of a whatever coming up against Penrith. So if you're sitting there as a Wars fan and maybe they lose but put up a performance, you're like, oh, I sort of expect that. So it's just one of those games. They have a few chinks in the armour though as well. I'm a little bit worried about seeing Luai in at the 7 spot and not having someone a little bit more comfortable in at that halfback position, steering the ship. So I just think that if we can turn this into a real boring, shitty, grinded out affair, the Warriors are going to win. I've got my jersey on. I've got my hat on. I feel like I haven't worn a jersey or anything leading into a show at the moment. I've had the Warriors, the Sea Eagles, and then I went to my first Storm game and I lost that one. So I got to back someone, and I'm going to manifest the Wires into a win here.
Damn, I hate how you've done this. We should have started with me and then ended with you on this take, because I'm not going the Wars. I think this is a terrible matchup for them. The Panthers have won the last two, 32-6 and 18-6. So, well, there was 1 to 12 in there with 18-6. So I guess they can get close. But, it's usually big scores when the Panthers play the Warriors. And the Warriors are down just too many players at the moment. Johnson, RTS, Rocco Berry, and Capewell all out. Whereas it's only really Cleary that's out for the Panthers, and they've still been winning without him. So I don't mind seeing CNK at 6. I have been calling for it a little bit, but not paired with Martin. I'd like it to be with Johnson instead of Martin. So I have a real icky feeling about this Haas combo as well. And, the Warriors did actually play good last week. But it's the same problem. Like, they dominate territory with AFB and Barnett carving up through the middle, but then just struggle to execute in the strike zone. And then a new wrinkle has surfaced with all these changes, which I don't like at all. And that's that we're dropping off tackles like flies. We're not defending well at all. We're not stopping teams when they get into the strike zone. Especially our left edge is looking really dodgy. They did last week. And, the Penrith Panthers defense has not missed a beat. They're still conceding an average of 12 points per game in their last 4. And I don't see it struggling with CNK and TMM as the opposite halves. So, begrudgingly, I am going to go with the Penrith Panthers 13 plus at $1.80 just because that's what the line is sitting at. I did really consider, doing what I did last week and do, a big Warriors line and then maybe, a Toto or something to score a try and Warriors to cover. But I think maybe I've learned my mistake from last week. So, yeah, I'm just going to go Panthers 13 plus.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because we introduced this show as punters and degenerates. Maybe I'm the degenerate in this one, because I've gone with the Toto and the Warriors to cover a heavy line. Now I've gone with Sanuya Taruva and Brian Toto to combine for 2+ tries. I'm sick of trying to pick what the hell Ivan Cleary does every single week. He seems to change them last minute all the time. So I'm going for a combo in 2+. They might score 1 each, or one of them might just score 2 out on that right side. So I'm going to take that into the Warriors at a +12.5. Just give myself a little bit of a blanket and hope that they can grind something out. And that is $7.50 odds there. Now the Storm, they take on the Eels in the middle slot on Sunday. The Storm are $1.26 favourites. The Eels are $3.90 underdogs, and the line is at 11.5. Xavier Coates, he returns for the Storm. Hughes still remains sidelined with the calf injury. Moses, he also remains sidelined with the foot injury, despite a bit of noise potentially coming back for this round, which is a shame that we don't get to see him. Arcee gets another shot in the number 6 jumper, and Cartwright returns for them as well. The Eels have won 4 of their last 6 games against the Storm. The Storm have won the 2 most recent matches against them, though. Magic Round last year, both teams lost. I'm taking the Storm, though, to bounce back. Fa'alongo looked so dangerous for the Storm. I just love the little hop-up, goose step, sort of throw the ball around a little bit. It's crazy what he does out there, and seeing him live, he's just so little and he's so quick. He just moves, glides across the park so quickly. He's just a threat from anywhere. But yeah, I'm going to take the Storm to win in this one.
Yeah. This game, I think this is the icky feeling game for me of the week.
Before every single prediction, you've leant back and you've said, "Yeah, it is a bit of a round like that." I feel like quite a few of these games are a bit tough to pick.
Well, I am pretty just wishy-washy in general, but this game in particular, considering the odds and considering how much of an underdog the Eels are, this one gives me the worst feeling out of them all. So the Storm still miss Hughes and Paps, but the Eels are missing Gutherson and Moses and don't really have the back depth that the Storm do to make up for it. And the Storm, last week just ran into a team that wanted it more, and they finally lost a close game, but it doesn't take away that just how good they've been all year. So I'm not going to read too much into them losing to the top of the table Sharks, whereas the Eels have been really struggling without Moses, losing 4 of their last 5 and conceding 30 on more than 4 times and 40 twice. So their only recent win came against the Cowboys, who have been struggling themselves. So they did play good last week, but ultimately they just cost themselves with mistakes, and that's what the Broncos capitalized on and ran full field to get a couple of breakout opportunities. But yeah, like I said, I really have a funny feeling about this game, and I wanted to take an Eels line, but the recent results, like I just laid out, don't. You just can't do it. I can't do it with a good conscience. So I like the Eels forwards with bolstered with Cartwright coming back in, but I just don't think you can bet the storm against the Storm when they've got the results they have and the Eels got the results they do. So I'm actually going to take some value with a close game. I'm going to say the Storm win 1-12 at $3.10 because the 13 plus was looking just pretty grim, and I just have a weird feeling about this game.
Nice. My best bet for this one, Harry Grant. He scored 4 tries in his last 3 games against the Eels. So let's go Harry in this one. Melbourne to win, $4.20 odds there. Now the Tigers take on the Dolphins to end Magic Round. They've set us up with the game of the round to end it all off here. Everyone will be hitting the road early to get back home. Fins up, they are $1.30 favourites in this one. The Tigers are $3.57 underdogs. The line is at 10.5. For the Tigers, Seyfarth and Twal, they move into the starting side to replace Bateman and Ice Papa. Naden is shifted to the centres, and Aloe Milo is on the wing for them. For the Dolphins, Hammer, he returns from injury, hamstring injury, of course, which sees Fuller drop to 18th man, and Kenny returns to the starting side for Plath, who is out due to concussion. Before we jump into the prediction, can you see a world where Trey Fuller can exist with Hammer still in the starting spot at that 14th role, or sort of how they might inject him into the game, or do you think this is just what we're going to see?
Unfortunately, I think it's just what we're going to see because the rest of the backs are pretty good for the Dolphins as well. There is a world where maybe Avarillo could run into a bit of sketchy form and then um, or maybe do something weird defensively because I don't see Avarillo as a lockdown player in that back line. So I could see Hammer moving into the centres and then having Trey Fuller at fullback. But if I'm being honest, I don't see a world with Trey Fuller because Hammer is at his best at that fullback position. I just like him lurking around the ruck and, chasing kicks and getting the opportunities he gets as a fullback. So unfortunately, no, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, you did see a little bit of experimentation with Hammer moving to the centre spot last year in terms of Wayne Bennett and putting, I believe it was Nikarima in at fullback for a few games, so I don't mind the take there. Now, the Tigers and the Finns have played each other twice. Both have won a game. And the Finns won the most recent meeting, which is round 5 this year. The Dolphins haven't lost at Magic Round yet. And last year, the Tigers defeated the Dragons 18-16 with a try to Junior Tupou in the 65th minute. I think the Finns win this one. I think they potentially put an absolute jobby out here on the Tigers at Suncorp as well, just to end it all off. And with Hammer in there, I think the Finn will be up on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's slowly becoming my team, the Dolphins. I've got all the gear and everything, so I'm going to back them again. They got the win earlier this year, 26-16, and like you said, they get Hammer in return. Whereas the Tigers lose some key forwards, man, and Papali'i and Bateman, and they're still missing Caesar and running Sullivan as the conductor, who Aaron says is a bad omen. So that's not a good sign for the Tigers. The Dolphins have been absolutely rolling, man. A fit team that is extremely dangerous at the back end of halves and patient until the opposition gets tired. And I think that's when they truly break out and start shifting the ball and really testing the edges. And that's why you see so much flurries of tries coming at the end for the Dolphins and turning results like they did against the Seagulls last week. And, they let tries in themselves because, their defense isn't the greatest, but they still managed to get results. So I've been really impressed with the Dolphins this year. And the Tigers are really just still the Tigers. I know we've lauded Benji Marshall for the job he did earlier this season, but it's not looking like much has changed really. They are still gritty and can stay in contests to their credit, but their strength is through their forwards, but their playmakers still can't generate points on attack. And now they lose two of their grittiest forwards. It just gets worse and worse for them. So I completely agree with you. I could see the Dolphins doing a bit of a jobby on the Tigers here. Maybe a close game in the first half with the Dolphins packing on some points at the back end and then running away with them in the second. So I've got the Dolphins 13 plus at $2.10.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. They just don't have the cattle out there. They're playing with heart and they're really fighting for it, but just like for like, they're just not quite up to the standard, and that's not a knock on Benji Marshall either. Now, he scored in Magic Round last year. He scored the last time that the Finns played the Tigers. The hammer, he's going to put the Finn up in this one. Partner that up with the Finns to win. We'll give you $2.25. My best bets for this one, Tomoko and Adokar, both to score a try at $6. Cobo, Mariner, Hamole, $13.75 in that one. Bradman Best, Knights to win at $2.87. Mulatalo, Dom Young, Roosters to win, $6.25. Val Holmes, Kyle Felt, both anytime try scorers at $4. Sanuya Taruva and Brian To'o to combine for 2+ tries, and the Wires plus 12.5 at $7.50. Harry Grant to score a try and Melbourne to win at $4.20. And the Hammer to put his fin up and the Finns to get up at $2.25.
Very nice. And I will be running the Raiders 1 to 12 at $3.40. Broncos head to head into total points over 46.5 at $2.15. Knights to cover the line. I think it might be 6.5 at the moment at $2. Roosters 1 to 12 at $3.10. Cowboys head to head and total points over 48.5 at $2.20. Panthers 13 plus at $1.80. Sorry, Warriors fans. Storm 1 to 12 at $3.10. And then finally, Dolphins 13 plus at $2.10.
Yeah, tasty. I'm interested to see if you can go a clean sweep on the sheets and pull home all of your best bets again in that one. Repeat set bets is our lock of the week. It's a nice little grubber into the in goal, looking for a repeat set. I'm going Dong Young, Sunia Taruva, both anytime try scorers, $3 odds.
And my repeat set bet, I am riding the Dolphins. They've been a consistent team. I can back them with some confidence now. I've got them to cover a -5.5 line at $1.53, just a little bit for safety. And hopefully they get the repeat set bets continuing to roll through.
Tasty. Do you want to take us away with your 40-20 bet? It is an odds of no less than $4.20. We're looking for a nice, juicy crossfield kick, change of momentum. You hit it last week. Give me what you got this week. Let's go again, Jordan.
And it's $4.20 on the absolute money. So exact odds $4.20. The second time I've done that this year. This one is a bit of an asterisk one though, but I have got a Raiders head-to-head to start off the week, and then I've got To'o anytime try scorer. But like you said before, Ivan Cleary is a jammy cunt, and I don't know which side he's going to end up playing on. I'm just banking on the fact he's going to play the same side as he did last week on that right side, and I really had concerns about the Warriors' defense on their left side. So I'm going To'o anytime try scorer into Raiders head-to-head at exactly $4.20.
Nice, tasty. All right, sit down, buckle up for this one. It's Magic Round, and I've hopefully got a little Magic Round multi for you. So you can't spell magic without these 5. Ronaldo Mulatalo has scored 3 tries in his last 3 games against the Roosters, 8 tries in 9 games this season. He is due. David Armstrong, the Titans have conceded 11 tries to fullbacks this season, and Armstrong has scored 2 tries in his last 3 games that he's played. Harry Grant has scored 4 tries in his last 3 games against the Eels. Jermaine Osako, 5 tries in his last 5 games against the Tigers, and they have conceded 5 tries to right wingers this year. And ending it with Selwyn Cobo, we all know what he does in Magic Round. 6 tries in his last 2 games here, a hat-trick in both times that he's played Manly, shifted to the centres, but I still think he's going to grab one for us here. Mulatalo, Armstrong, Grant, Osako, Cobo, $77.74. gamble responsibly. If you haven't spelt it out already, we're going with the last name, starting with the first letter to spell magic. Mulatalo for the M, Armstrong for the A, Grant for the G, I, Asako, ending it with corn on a cobo for the C, MAGIC, $77.74. Let's see if we can hit a magic multi on that one.
Beautiful.
All right, that wraps up the show from us, though. I'm gutted that we can't be there. Hopefully, we'll be there next year. But enjoy all of the festive footy this year. If you're going to it, you're listening to this, get amongst it all. It looks like an absolute spectacle. We can't wait to see it all. Starting off, obviously, on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And yeah, we'll review everything come next week. Like we say every week, like, subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify, give us a comment, but jump in on the best bets, and we'll see you all next week. Peace.